Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode
Uh,
of the Hewkii and Flammeus show. Who are we talking to today, Hukes?
we are talking to Dante Shantê, and Dante is a channeler. He's a yogi. He's a spiritual explorer amongst many other things.
Very good dude, very emotionally intelligent as well. Great pleasure talking with him.
Indeed. So let's cut to the chase. Enjoy,
Cut to the
everybody.
chase. Okay.
Welcome to the show, Dante. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So I came dressed as Jesus, as you can tell.
Oh,
Inspired by your latest post about you not being Jesus and the fact that all of us guys with long hair and beards, we get called Jesus all the time.
Yeah, I just saw that post as well, actually.
But I want to push you on this. I do think you are, in fact, Jesus.
ooh, that's edgy.
I
That's
mean, I think everybody is, but it's
Well, I
not.
mean, we're all one, and the one is like whatever that Christ is, so that makes sense. But
Yeah, exactly. I just think we need to own our Jesusness as guys with long hairs and beards. Just
totally.
oh yeah, I just now clocked that this also applies to me. I
yeah,
guess
but okay. I wanted to check on this though
I
because
just
I'm wondering if
also,
blonde guys have the same issue.
that we get compared to Jesus.
Yeah.
I've gotten the Thor comparison, after the Marvel movies came out, but
Right.
um, yeah, I look like Chris Hemsworth, guys. What's up? But yeah, no, Jesus comes up as well. But
Okay.
perhaps like I don't think I resemble his image as much as you do with your actual beards. I can't even grow a beard. I just get the mustache. So I'm kind of screwed.
Wow. Okay, we'll leave you out of our exclusionary Jesus club over here.
Damn it. I will
anyone.
do I'll do my best to live after his example still.
What you're saying, Dante?
So anyone who's a believer is in.
Exactly. With
Oh,
open arms.
yeah.
So I want to dive just a little bit into your work because you, if I'm not mistaken, released a book recently.
Yes. Um, so I mean, I've been working with channeling for maybe like 9 years or so. So entering a sort of like hypnotic trance to allow for multidimensional consciousness to speak through me. It happens very uh, in a flow, you could say, and it I've been doing this for clients and groups for a while, and it's really about kind of personal healing and spiritual realization and kind of help people to get to the core of what some of their patterns are about and have some healing moments. And the most recent book is really just a transcript of some of the best live sessions that have happened on my YouTube channel and in person around the world. Because I've kind of used channeling to create some other books in the past, but um, I kind of felt as if everything that had already happened very organically, kind of just in my work with people, should be documented as well. And so it was not really written, it was like transcribed, and then kind of I clipped it so that only the really juiciest parts were there. Um, so that's the latest book, yeah.
So the greatest hits album, basically, of channeling.
You could say so, yeah. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
actually YouTube videos of those transmissions as well. You can find the link to like listen along if you prefer to kind of llisten and feel the energy with it.
Okay,
But
cool. Yeah. I'm wondering where can people find this book because I want to look into it.
um it's on Amazon. You can like do it through that, or I'm also sending people like PDF or e-publish copies if that works. I'm not sure if it would be available in Iceland if things ship there from the Amazon, maybe. But it was the easiest way to self-publish things and kind of get things on the ground, you could say.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
I'm sure there's a workaround for Iceland. I'm in Germany myself, so
Okay.
I should be
Yeah,
blessed.
that's on Amazon, no problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of topics I do want to touch on around this, but I'm not sure if Tim also wanted to
I mean,
input something here.
I could throw in a bunch of questions, but I think Helgi, if you got anything that was prepared in advance and you actually wanted to ask since a long time ago, then go for it.
I mean, there's one thing that comes up around channeling that I want to dive into a little bit is that it's something that's, I guess, kind of polarizing. There's a lot of people that don't really buy it.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But then I have seen channelings from Bashar that just strike me as very profound, and then I've also seen other supposed channelings that strike me as almost a bit ridiculous, and there's kind of an obvious feeling that the person is acting to a degree. I'd just be curious, just for the people that are maybe not used to
I think
dealing with these topics or diving into this, like what would be a good way of parsing like what is a genuine channeler and what's somebody who's just pretending to be
And
I
one?
would,
first of
you
all,
don't,
perhaps you could speak to what even is channeling. How does it go
Right.
down? How does it look? What happens in the videos
well,
for people
I
who don't
want to
know
say,
anything?
sorry. Okay. The very first thing I want to say is that you don't actually have to believe in the mechanism as I see it to benefit from the message that's being shared. So I always emphasize, you know, look to the message first. Does that resonate? Does it sit well with you? If you just think that a channeler is somebody who's very good at speaking and knows a lot, that's another way of seeing it. But really, what makes it different than talking is this stream of consciousness that connects with, there isn't, I might pause a lot more than when I'm channeling, and it comes with this other voice. And it, in a way, you could say it's like similar to acting, that you're getting into resonance with a character. But the difference is that once you get into this flow, it's like the character takes over and your own personality takes a step aside. And in that state, there's more access to subtle levels of information. And
So this,
yeah,
whatever force this is, speaks through you, and this concept revolves around speaking, transmitting knowledge through
correct.
speech.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, this is very interesting to me because I do freestyle guitar music where the concept is just I sit down and then I just play and I put my ego aside and just whatever flows through, flows through.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, somebody called me a channeler, and this got me thinking, like, yeah, I guess the concept is the same because when I'm in that state, something is just coming through me. And it's not music in the traditional sense. I'm not repeating a chorus or a verse. It's just like a river streaming through. So it's interesting to notice that parallel.
It's
Yeah.
very, and some call these peak states, some call it flow states, but it's just a state of consciousness where you lose inhibitions and pre-thought, and everything kind of happens in a continuous motion, and insight and maybe information is coming to you in the same moment. And so in that way, there's definitely a connection between art and channeling. I think the first time I was exposed to the concept of channeling, it was just called automatic writing, and that was already getting the gears in motion. Like I was in a metaphysical bookstore while I was in also doing some creative writing classes, and I found automatic writing, and you just start writing and you don't really have any restraint. You let the message come and you no forethought, and you can get into a place where very detailed messages come, but your own kind of conscious mind is taking a sidestep. And that was kind of one of the first things that led me towards channeling. But then there was also like energy healing, the concept that through Reiki or something, with visualization and breath and intention, you can actually connect with and transmit a subtle energy. And you might pick up information as you do that. And so as I would start to see kind of images in my own imagination or hear different thoughts doing those kinds of sessions, I started to, get closer into that channeling state. And I read a lot at a point, I was working with different psychic teachers who were kind of guiding me to get clearer or learn different techniques. And they suggested to me to read some different channeled books or listen to them. And it really like lit me up. Like I would feel very just high, and a lot of visions or insight would come to me as I was listening to them. Eventually, I could hear a voice that asked me to speak it aloud. And that's how I started channeling.
Okay, this is very, now you got me fired up as well. This is really
Yeah.
exciting to me. So for somebody who'd be interested in, who feels perhaps similarly to me hearing this right now, hearing how powerful of a practice this was for you and continues to be, what are the steps one could take to go further down that path? I'll continue by saying that I've done free flow journaling before, and that sounded like what you were talking about at the start there, what got you into channeling, quote unquote, to begin with.
Yeah.
And yeah, but how did you take the next step after that?
It it's very kind of non-linear. It was never a goal for me to start channeling. The automatic writing thing was just something that I kind of picked up as I was exploring writing and spirituality. And later I found some of the first Pleiadian books from Barbara Marciniak and the like, and I was moved by it, but I didn't really, yeah, the concept of the beings wasn't really clear to me yet. One of the things I was learning around that time was also shamanic journeying. So it's like the repetitive beat of a drum at a specific frequency and trains your brain so that you're able to access more of this dreamlike visionary realm and stay focused in that state. That really helped me a lot. And for me, the first time I did that, I thought it was just like imagination and I was making things up. But I connected with all of it because ever since I was young, I had a very active imagination. And I think it puzzled me that other people didn't because I remember at an early age, I would ask people, like, when you close your eyes and you can see yourself in another place or get a very particular picture, and other people didn't know what I was talking about. So anyway, when I started shamanic journeying, I had very clear visions. There was a snake, it was a cave, there were crystals. It was a little bit spooky, but something about it felt cool and real. But then I was like, no, I just have an active imagination. And then as I had that thought, they did there's a last beat of the drum to kind of call you back. And that last beat that changed the rhythm began. And then I felt this surge of energy go up my spine. And it really focused on this, like, around my head and to my forehead. And it was kind of like a violet color. And it looked like I could see the snake even more clearly looking back at me. And there was this voice that was like, so you really think this is made up, with this crazy electric feeling? And I was like, okay, well, maybe imagination is more than what we thought it was. And I guess that's what made me really start to take the more metaphysical notions of the yoga and healing classes that I was already involved in seriously, you could say.
It's super interesting. I really want to touch on something here. You bring up this concept of imagination, and imagination is something that gets trivialized a lot by our materialistic culture.
Yeah.
And through studying non-duality, it's become apparent to me that the distinction between imagination and reality doesn't actually exist, and that everything is imaginary. It's just imagination at different levels of density. So right now,
Yeah.
I'm imagining very strongly that I am this character right here speaking to another character, and that imagination is so strong and so dense that it feels completely real. That's how powerful God's imagination is.
Yeah.
So I think this kind of touches on, some people who aren't into the quote unquote more woo woo side of spirituality. Everything is imaginary. Uh, you know, even the most mundane seeming real things.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
this conversation is especially to have interesting to have after our conversation, which was a couple episodes ago with Martin Ball
Yeah, I thought of that
uh,
too.
on DMT, 5-MeO DMT, and the complete non-dual experience, where
Yes.
he essentially stated that there wasn't any purpose in giving too much credence to things that were apparently imaginary and were, as he would put it, projections of the ego, if I remember correctly. People, you can go back and listen to that episode
I mean,
to find
basically,
out
his
exactly
point
what he
is
said.
essentially that any dualistic experience is a projection of the ego because you've got a self and an other present. So I guess my question to you, Dante, would be, uh, what's the relationship between the full non-dual state and the channeling state? Are they uh, connected in any meaningful way?
Well, it depends your definition of a non-dual state as well. Like if you go like a sort of Vedanta route, that the non-duality is blending with an impersonal or supreme kind of consciousness. Um, I think channeling is different because there's a personality to it, and even if that personality is not, uh, you know, human-like in the same way that our personalities are, it doesn't have that impersonal feeling when you
Right.
connect, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we just bring this up to kind of poke you because I mean, this is probably a question that a lot of people listening would have on their minds around this stuff.
I
Any,
just like look at what you were saying about that person's theory. I think that there, in a way, there's a little bit of truth to it, but it's also short-sighted. It's like it's both dual and non-dual. Um, like
Right.
also I've studied astrology a lot and both Western and Vedic astrology. And I remember at an ashram, I was talking to the astrologer and he reminded me that, the people that are very like in depth, in deep in that spiritual lineage don't even look at astrology or don't even do kind of the outer symbolic levels of worship because they are just there to find that non-dual state. So even something like astrology that gets you very engaged in the story and the outcome and the identity can actually be a hindrance and a limitation. And so that's also like an issue that I see within the people who are really into channeling as well, and why I think my work with channeling like steered me away from some of the common topics that people channel about. Um, I mean, I can't control what people ask about, obviously, when they come into a live stream, but at least, with what I more publicize more, I emphasize the more inner work spiritual dimension to it than some of the cosmologies and stories of other dimensions that sometimes I don't really feel connected to, but they come through me anyway. And I think you could see it as just like, okay, what if it is just a fantasy or a symbol? Nonetheless, as a projection of your consciousness, the journey is to get to know yourself. So the issue is when you see these projections and fantasies and visions, and you automatically assign meaning to it, and then you get attached to the meaning you assign to it, and you become totally unconscious of that process. So
Right.
if you get aware of the meaning making tendency and you see that as a choice, and you have an elaborate vision, a symbolic thing that presents itself to you, then it's just an interesting mirror to look at. And there's no like risk or loss of the real path because you're able to recognize that you are choosing what that vision ultimately means. And it's a portal into the workings of your own beliefs and mind that you almost need to look at clearly to deconstruct
I love that.
and fully experience
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like that's a big feeling that came up for me as we were having that conversation with Martin Ball actually was that, man, it might not be verifiably true, but it might still be worth believing in, is the way I like to put it. Like
Yeah.
and it's worth believing in if it's helpful, is my definition. And the stuff you're talking about sounds helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, if it works, it works. That's the key. But I think what you're pointing out also is that there is a danger with all these kind of all these systems that have this elaborate cosmology to them that people can sometimes get kind of easily lost in the weeds, so to speak, that it's somehow maybe not direct enough or applicable when it's too conceptual, too out there. But I think I understood you correctly that you were saying that your work is actually more direct when it comes to channeling compared to maybe some other examples.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of channeling and metaphysical stuff that's like a detailed exploration of the Atlantean kingdom, or connect with your, Lemurian counterparts, or just, it's like the fantastical otherworldly stuff. And, my guides say that they come from this other realm, but it's more like their message is about helping us transform our reality, transform our own inner being. Um, I try to steer away from these like vast stories of other realms, because I see when people start to get lost in the other realm, they aren't present here. And, I've done that in my own journey as well, not necessarily with channeling, but in other ways. I wanted to see what was on the other side more than what was on this side. And that's not very helpful, you could say.
Right. And that is inherently a dualistic paradigm that there is kind of here and now, and then there is an other, instead of taking it all as here and now, whatever the present
Yeah.
appearance may be.
But then if you have something like DMT, where when you're in it, there's no self, no concept of self even. Like, it's hard to say it's not other than this.
Hmm.
Right. I mean, surely the experience, the content of the experience is very different, but there's a beingness that is present in whatever the
Yeah,
content of experience may be revealing.
totally.
Hmm.
There's an essential layer of being that's there in both of them.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's always here. Like
Yeah.
no matter where you are, if you're out in the DMT dimension, like it's always here, man. You can't go anywhere.
And it's
Right.
good. It's good. It's exactly the way it's supposed to be. Something I like to remind myself of frequently. But man, it's another conversation we could get into. That's really hard because the
That can
world's
be a
really
hard
messed up.
one. Yeah. Especially when you're in a lot of suffering, like accepting that, man, you know.
Yeah, just being like Jesus. If you were on my power level, you would know why that mountain is exactly where it's supposed to be.
All right.
Um,
Yeah, so maybe we can touch a little bit into this uh concept of acceptance and what that role plays in your journey and also in the teachings of the channeling.
Totally. Like self-acceptance, acceptance in general. Or,
Uh, Both, I'd say.
yeah.
would you say they amount to the same thing?
I think they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. It's like accepting where you're at in the bigger picture. Yeah. But I mean, the thing that comes through in channeling all the time is to act on your own highest excitement to the best of your ability without insisting on a particular outcome. And do that and that alone, and everything else works out. And it aligns you with the frequency of your inner self or your higher self. So, acceptance is a lot about that idea of having no insistence on an outcome. I think acceptance is when there's an absence of resistance to how you are and how the world is. And
Mm.
that doesn't mean you're not working towards change. It just means that this moment is okay.
Yeah,
And its acceptance is also about really, honoring what you are called to, and not going against your inner calling, because you've developed beliefs and ideas that would steer you in another direction to gain approval or security. It's really about like knowing who you truly are and accepting that. Um,
yeah.
and from does it? a journey, of course, as well. You know, accepting failure as part of the process, accepting that it's experimental and not a straight line. So it's a continuous process of
Yeah.
really letting go of that resistance.
So it always comes back to being okay with this moment the way it is.
But then there's also another layer to that because like any good idea in the spiritual or metaphysical realm can be misunderstood. So this idea of acceptance, I think it very often gets misapplied and misunderstood that you're just supposed to somehow
Like
put up with
I'm
things.
totally accepting.
Yeah,
I'm fine with this. It's
yeah, you
okay.
gotta put up with things that you're not actually okay with, and the deeper level of acceptance would actually be to accept the thing that you don't. Your non-acceptance should be uh, met with acceptance as well, if that makes any sense.
Totally. You know, it's the paradox of resisting resistance. If you are in resistance, but you're denying that it's true, or you're pushing to get out of it, you create only more resistance.
Right.
But people misunderstand so many different spiritual concepts because many of them are specific to the context. You know, what you resist persists is very specific to that context. Like if you put it in a different context of like an abusive relationship, then obviously it's going to be something very different. So that's why I think the formula is it's important to have something that's universally true. And it's one of the few things about the human experience that is universally true. When you act on your highest excitement or your heart's truest calling or, you know, your bliss, whatever you call it, it doesn't matter. But it's a frequency. It's like a somatic yes response that you know how to listen to. Do it to the best you can. Have no insistence on an outcome. That's always true, and it doesn't lead you astray. You might make a mistake, but that's built into the formula because the mistake is an opportunity to learn a lesson. And once you integrate the lesson, you're grateful for even the mistake, and you keep moving forward. And that's
So
that.
this right now sounds like the solution and the end all be all. Where does the channeling come in? Why is that important to deliver this message?
Well, channeling is a specific way to share the message because I mean, on one hand, people resonate with it, and I think something about the trance state is like a high frequency energy that is bringing other people into that resonance. And then from a more logical perspective, people might ask about very vulnerable things. And it's kind of like, you know, we're all very empathetic. And I know in myself, there's a tendency to like deliver the message a little bit more softly. But if it isn't me who's speaking, sometimes the message is a little bit more cut and dry. And that kind of like we press the button and we don't have anything more to say to you is like a wake up call that is a little bit like it doesn't feel right for me as a human to do. But doing it as a channel, I don't think anything of it after the session's over because it wasn't even me. And actually, that kind of direct transmission really works for people. But I'm not a guru in this hierarchical whatever. I'm just a person. But sometimes the message needs that kind of like,
It can
and
be easier to deliver the truth plainly and accurately, is what you're
yeah.
saying. I really appreciate that argument. That's something that I've been going through very personally recently because like me and Helgi have had numerous conversations about this on the phone. How we can be such pushovers, you know, such nice guys who just
High
allow.
in agreeableness.
Right. Very agreeable people is the psychological terminology. Yeah. And something I've been going through very recently, something came up in my life and I had to step up and set some boundaries and just do it in a pretty gangster way so that it got across. And because the other party wasn't quite willing to listen, you know, so I had to I had to get real for a second, you know, and that was really hard for me. But like in my heart I could see that it was the right thing to do, so I stepped up to the fear to my credit. I'm very proud of myself actually for getting that done.
I am
So
too.
hard. But um yeah, so that all that to say that really resonates with me right now, brother. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. It's a hard thing to do sometimes, but it's like if we don't do it, we're not really building a strong container for our own well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah, it ultimately boils down to truth. And
Yeah.
if you're feeling some kind of way and you're not expressing it,
Yeah.
you're
And
withholding truth.
and you know, recently I've just gotten like my whole attitude has just turned a little more gangsta around all that. I've just because of having this experience, I've kind of um learned a new or put on a new mask, if you will. My ego structure has changed slightly into somebody who now kind of just says things as they are when they need to be said, a
Right.
little bit more than I used to, is which is really hilarious to witness, honestly.
Not to harp on about Martin Ball all day, but he had an idea called full spectrum beings. So in a sense, and he applies this to music also. He makes music for psychedelic journeys, and he wants to have some darker moments in there because he wants people to explore and get intimate with the full spectrum beingness of who they are. So I think this is just what you're touching on. Just to be a complete human being, you need to be able in certain moments to tap into different states that are required in different situations.
Right. I mean, I was talking about like the delivery of like giving somebody a hard wake-up call, but also like we need all of the different aspects of the emotional spectrum. We need to be able to like feel all of them and connect with them and not push any of them away because there's a lot of wisdom inherent in each of them when
Right,
we don't.
right. 100%. I feel you there. Um, so yeah, where do you want to take this note to me? What's coming up for you? I'm dry.
So much stuff, man. So much stuff. What are some of the most, if you're allowed to share, of course, what are some of the most powerful experiences you've had while channeling? I would love to hear some stories if you got them.
Powerful for me or powerful for the people who experienced it?
Either or both.
I can say with powerful for the people who experienced it. I think somebody I worked with over a long period of time really used channeling as permission to feel passion. Like they had a lot of time for creativity in their life, but they didn't really feel like their art or music was fully received well, but they learned to give themselves permission to just do it for its own sake and put themselves in new environments that really lit them up. And they got really connected with this energy of like, wow, passion for life. I'm genuinely happy. And they always tell me like, oh, I tell everyone that I'm happy because of what we did, and I wasn't happy before, and I'm still happy, and I don't have any questions anymore. And that kind of transformation is remarkable and like gave me a lot of affirmation. And then there's like simple ones too, like people like had an issue with their feet for months, and then they had a couple bits of advice in the session that disappeared a few days later. So things like that have always been really affirmative for me. But in general, I think that people have at least some sense of relief and like a movement in a new direction after doing this. And then in my own experience, like in channeling, the most powerful moments, I guess, are, mm, yeah, I mean, it's not every time like that there's like this additional message or transmission that comes through. It's very in the moment, but sometimes it's very like moving and energetic for me as well. I think especially like when there's group settings, like on the phone, I do them in the Zoom sessions, but I get actually a little bit more, if the technology glitches or something, I'm pulled out of it and it's not as profound for me. But definitely in like the group sessions where I've done channeling in connection with cacao rituals and toning and sound healing, they've been just as moving and joyous for me as well, I'd say.
Hmm. I prepared some cacao in preparation for this episode, actually. Just before letting you into the Zoom room, I was like, this is just checked out your stuff on Instagram. I was like, we're about to drop in with this guy, better bring the cacao.
Yeah,
No.
I worked with Keith, the cacao shaman in Guatemala. I think many people know him in Iceland through the connection of many students, but I met him in 2013, and it was very profound stuff. Part of what opened my gates to channeling because he was really on to Bashar and many of the other teachers and things that kind of started to open the door.
Hmm.
That's interesting. This brings me to Iceland because you have been here
You're already
Yes.
in Iceland.
once or more than once. How many times have you been to Iceland?
Oh, technically twice because once I had a long stopover in Reykjavik, but twice. Yeah, once. Yeah.
Okay,
I'd say
because
it counts.
that counts.
Good.
But I remember you did a channeling session in my old home, the big garden, which is
Yes.
was this commune on the edge of the city by this lighthouse.
Wait, what? In what
Yes.
city? What city? Are we talking about
Right.
Uh,
Holafs?
no, Reykjavik, Seltjarnarnes,
Oh,
all
all
the
right.
way by the lighthouse. It was like this interesting hippie commune type situation we had going on there. But I was going to go to your channeling, but I just missed it. But I remember seeing you walk out the door being like, this guy knows what's up.
Uh,
So
yeah, we met.
can you maybe just tell us a little
Brother.
bit about what you went through in Iceland and your journey and like what brought
I'm
you here?
very, very curious. Yeah. First of all, just where did you go? What parts of the country did you see?
So Iceland, yeah. I mean, in 2019 in Peru, I met a friend there, or a couple friends from Iceland, and back then I was like, yeah, one day I really want to come. I'd actually already kind of decided I wanted to go to Iceland long before because I met a friend in Guatemala, and she was like organizing a yoga teacher training. She invited a bunch of us, and then she had to cancel the training at the last minute, so I didn't end up going.
Was she
So
Icelandic?
yeah. Um, anyway, but so the second time it was or the time I actually went, the second time I had the intention, it was like what 2022, and COVID had happened right after I met my friend in Peru, so it didn't couldn't happen then. But as the world started to open up, after being kind of imprisoned as a traveler for a couple of years, I was like, I am about to do the biggest, longest travel I've ever done in case anything crazy happens again. And Iceland was the first stop.
Nice. When?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to come also to experience. I mean, I was both curious of the Northern Lights and the all day night thing, the midnight sun. So I came in
Yeah.
the and I was almost up to like 6 a.m. every day because I was just so not used to it. I think I got a very manic feeling. But I was in Reykjavik and a bit outside of the city. I was in Akureyri.
That's my
Um,
hometown.
yeah,
Yay.
I think I went down there twice actually. So, but
Rock
yeah,
and
I mean,
roll.
house ceremonies, meeting up with friends, seeing the incredible nature, just beautiful, powerful energy, and the hot springs, epic. Wow, it was a very incredible place.
Man, yeah.
Where
I
else?
the midnight sun trips you up. I know. Like I
Yeah.
was I was about to say I lived for 10 months in Brazil. Now it was a year ago that I came back from there. I'm living and studying in Germany now. Um, I just finished a bachelor's in jazz performance on the electric bass for context, and I'm now starting my master's here. But I did an exchange year in Brazil, and it's so near the equator that the days and nights are more or less equally long for the entire duration of the year. And after a couple months of staying there, I started feeling weird. Like I was just like, something's not right. And then I realized consciously it's because the days are nights. The sun always comes up at 6 and it sets at 6. I get
Yeah.
always, every time. It doesn't fail. And then I was like, wait a second. It's me that's weird.
I'm used to that from spending a lot of time in the tropics. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I could go for some of that to be fair. Now we have the whole day night type situation and it's just messing with my biorhythm.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I'm having a
Even
hard
down
time
in
sleeping.
Germany, it's bad. It's
Yeah.
oof.
I haven't experienced that in a long time. But I mean, I'm lived so much in summer and heat in the winter that I'm kind of burnt up. Like the heat treats so tired of it. But I also don't want the middle of winter either, so I won't complain.
Oh. Where in what kind of environment did you grow up in? I actually wanted to ask you about your past and kind of your transition into the spiritual dude you have grown to become. But yeah. Wait,
So yeah,
we'll start there. Where are you from?
in Pennsylvania in the United States, south of New York, if you're not sure. Philadelphia is the capital. So I grew up in a smaller town, and my dad was, I know this. You often bring musicians here. My dad was in like rockabilly bands, and he's very in the New York scene, the punk rock times of the '80s. So I had a sort of like yeah, alternative. I wouldn't say counterculture, but alternative kind of framework from a young age. And yeah, I mean, he got me onto the beat literature and a little bit like we were going wild in my teenage years before he started like going to AA. My mom was also an alcoholic who never really made conscious changes. So there was a lot of like chaos and turbulence due to both of them, though more so my mom. And so that was kind of like the spiritual seeking was birthed from that kind of feeling like no one has the answers. I've been through school, I did well. I don't really have the answers for why everyone is crazy, and no one really has a good approach to life. My stepmom suggested I go to the yoga classes, and it worked a little bit, but I was still very young. I was only 18 when I started, and I was interested in other things. But then you could say the psychedelic medicine reminded me of what I'd learned and opened me to this, profound sense that things were like everything was alive, everything was conscious, everything was art, everything was symbolic, something much bigger was alive. And then going on the path of working both with those medicines and yoga, I was just kind of guiding myself through a spiritual path, obviously with yoga teachers as friends, but they weren't, spiritual teachers or anything. I dropped out of school and I went to a yoga training, and I loved it and I wanted to teach right away. So there was a more DIY studio that was also offering Reiki sessions, and they took me on donation-based classes and did an exchange where I learned Reiki for some work, and then a whole nother portal opened. I really felt a deep resonance with this and started to incorporate that in my day-to-day life a lot as well. And this
Okay,
was
wait,
to
before you go any further, I got some burning questions already. This is so first of all, really relate to that feeling as a kid for sure. I'm feeling like looking around you and just being like what the hell's up with the world? Like why is everybody crazy? What's
Terrence McKenna speaks about it. Like nobody knows what's up when you're a kid. You think your parents know, and then you grow up. Okay, maybe the politicians know. Okay, wait, nobody knows what's going on.
I just remember not feeling sure that I would be able to create a life that I could enjoy at some point, that before reaching the realization that anybody can, because we're all just consciousness, and as such, we have the power to change anything in our egoic structure and how we go about our business in our daily lives. Um, so yeah, super duper relate with the hopeless feeling of that. It's such a terrible feeling. I remember looking
yeah.
at myself in the mirror as a teenager and thinking I was ugly, and just being like, fuck, I'm never going to be beautiful. Like, damn, I'm never going to look handsome. This is the face, this is the cards I was dealt. Like, there's nothing I can do about this. But there's always something you can do about it. So, and then wanted to touch on the psychedelics because I'm really interested in hearing that like more in depth. If you're willing to share that publicly, like what kind of medicines you
Any
did.
all
I see. You're a psychedelic heavyweight.
yeah.
That makes two of us. High five.
Yeah.
I'd say I'm like a lightweight middle class, or middle
Okay.
class, light or middle weight.
Well, I mean, what I did most back in the day was LSD. And I think for a time I moved more away from what I thought was synthetic, but I've come back to it and I still think it's the classic, trusted, can't go wrong.
It's also my favorite LSD. It's
Yeah.
just special.
Yeah.
And I showed this on the show recently. I had just got an LSD, a Hoffman themed tattoo on my hand over here. on my shoulder. So
Yeah.
it's deeply ingrained into my being.
There's a
Yeah.
bicycle day tattoo for anybody who didn't. Yeah. Yeah, LSD, I don't have very much experience with that one personally. It's been mostly mushrooms for me, but
Yeah.
on LSD on a couple occasions. My experience of it was that it was less visual than psilocybin.
I
Uh,
mean, it's all about the dose and the set and the setting that is in your body at the time. For me, acid's a little bit more visual than mushrooms. My first breakthrough experience was on 5 hits of acid on my 19th birthday, and I'm
you
born.
took 5 tabs.
Yes,
Oh
um,
my.
I was born on November 19th, 1991, and so it was my 19th birthday. It was all these ones and nines aligning, and I mean, I took maybe two or three, and then I already had this very profound experience that was like everything in the world is coming together. And then we had more and we were all just in this like very like elated state. So we were, why not? And I think in my early years, I was only 19 and I had, inherited the alcoholism genes and I was already, mildly alcoholic for the 6 months before I started psychedelics. So a bit of the first years were like some impulsive behaviors, but none that I really regretted. But there were times that I had just blown open the doors too much and it
Tell
was
me about
Some
it.
bad
I've been
energies
there,
made
done
it in. Yeah.
that. Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
uninvited bad energies that got in.
Not even bad. Sometimes it's just too much. Like too much of a good thing. It's just an overload.
Much. It was just too much at once.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but then, I did get to a point. Well, at one point, I mean, I think I was on this very like spiritual warrior concept because I got involved in Kundalini yoga, where you're supposed to do 2.5 hours of yoga practice, and it's vigorous and it's weird, and you wear this like cult uniform and stuff. So it was like I was so open to everything. Let me try all of it, and I loved it because the yoga got you high too. But I think in that time I was doing like I was having a very strict diet, very intense yoga, and also taking psychedelics. And one day I took 5 grams of mushrooms after fasting for several days. And I was at a festival and I couldn't like take care of myself and it was very like chaotic around me. And after
How many days of fasting, man? Like what?
5 or 6, I don't know. And so, yeah, I mean, I was really extreme, and I was like doing yoga through all of it too. And so after that moment of complete instability and getting sick after, I gave all of the psychedelics I had away, and I don't even know how I had so many. It was just part of the rainbow gathering, is that they keep like coming to you. That you collect them if your aura is bright enough, I guess, without having to pay for them. And then I just was like, okay, just as these came to me, I'm giving all of these away. And the funny part is that years later, over 10 years later, someone bought me an ice cream because they remembered me and they remembered me handing them like a small handful of little seeds to have a happy day.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, really fun to hear about these stories and not to derail too much, but I've heard good things also about the rainbow gatherings. One friend who lived with me in the big garden, he was a big into the rainbow gatherings, and he always spoke so fondly of them.
Yeah, I'd really love to try it one day.
Yeah, I mean, I think don't come in America. I think Europe is a different thing. It's a little bit better organized. I mean, the American rainbows are chaos.
Right.
Sorry to whom I offend.
Yeah, these are the pitfalls of the hippie, I
Yeah.
guess, state is that it can just have a tendency towards chaos.
The hippie
Uh,
state.
Yeah. It's a way of being and it has a lot of positives, but I'm speaking from my own experience. Like when you're too hippy tippy all the time, it's like
It's not
you
a
just
game. It's not a hobby.
yeah,
It's a lifestyle.
for sure. It absolutely is. So
There you go.
yeah.
It
So
is for
I'm happy.
me. It is for me. That's for sure.
I'm happy to go further into your story, unless we want to dive a little deeper into the whole psychedelic.
Yeah, I mean, back was it? I ended in 2012, yeah, because that's when I started traveling, right? I mean, I'd gone across the country in the States, which is not a small travel, but to go international was another step. And I went to Mexico on a one-way ticket. I actually spent like the rest of my money on the one-way ticket in total trust. And it was honestly, it got to be shaky pretty fast, but it was also beautiful and exhilarating the whole time. And I thought I wanted to go to South America to work with ayahuasca because I hadn't yet. But then in Mexico, I had my first ayahuasca experience. It also just came to me. And in Guatemala, I met the psychic teachers and Keith, the cacao shaman, included in that. And that
Were you in
place,
San Marcos?
yeah, San Marcos. I didn't actually want to go there the first time I went with the caravan of people. It's kind of like I was brought with them. And then got there, I was like, okay, we're just staying here, and that's that. So I stayed for like 8 months from that time, and almost every year after that time, I would come back and I'd travel through the summer months and then return in the winter. So I did that for a while, but then my years in Guatemala just opened me up to different communities around the world. And I also had a calling to India as well. So I did travel around a bit then. But after some time, 2020, I was very fed up with Guatemala after, 7 years living there. And
Wow.
yeah, on and off though. I was only there in the seasons. So I've been coming to Mexico more since then, but now I come back to Mexico and feel very different about it after being in Asia the last year, my second or third trip to Asia. So yeah, I mean, things are just like changing. I'm very fortunate in that around 2020 COVID era, I was able to work way more online, and I've somehow managed to just make it through and also get opportunities to work or have places to stay through my work. I was working at a retreat center and a yoga meditation center in Cambodia, and that really feels like resonant with me now. It's like, okay, like it needs to just be with the right community and the right people. There isn't so much to see as much anymore. I mean, since this journey began, now I've traveled to 30 countries. And there's a couple more on the list, but there's no longer this like sense of urgency. It's more like, I'll get to it one day. Yeah, I've been really recently focused on creativity, I would say. So, I mean, the channel book is just out there now, but I've also been working on a journey, a memoir. I'd say it's more autobiography than memoir because it's very complete. It doesn't leave that much out. That's important, at least, of my life. And I've wanted to do that for a while, but I've kind of, had these attempts where I started and failed or discarded it. And I finally kind of, got that together as well as many other projects. And yeah, I mean, the past year and some has really been that more inner focus. But yeah, I see I'm still moving about even as I come more to the inner world, I would say. Sorry, no, I think I've lost the trail a little bit. But
It's
Very
very
cool.
interesting. It seems like your life has had just a very strong nomadic component to it.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are asking themselves right now, what did you do to sustain yourself financially? Did the channeling start kicking in with enough money right away, or how did it go?
no. So, I mean, when I first began, it was like I said, I spent all of my money on the ticket to Mexico. And then I was just doing, the Reiki class, and I was doing some Reiki sessions and yoga classes and a Reiki course to earn us some money quick. And then in Guatemala, I started teaching yoga classes and teaching Reiki. And like, I would, live at hostels or in a tent. And it was always like, I don't know, like some days I would just spend the last of my money, and then like, okay, cool, now we have no money, but hopefully people come to yoga tomorrow. So I got used to being able to live like that. So um, yeah, just going with it, and then in those early years as well, I started to go on a trimigration cycle. So, working for weed farms in California, I did that 3 times. But it's not, I don't know. Like, I think veterans are going to tell good stories about the old times because we could make a lot of money, but it was not very fun in the grand scheme of things. So after the third time doing that in 2016 was the point where I was like, I can't do this shit anymore. Like I can't do this hippie shit anymore.
Is it grueling work in the fields?
It's like it's very pain, like for the shoulder when you're just an arm, when you're repeating it over and over, you're just in these boxes. Sometimes it was just way too cold and you're not in good conditions. People can be like, back and forth about important things like paying you, for example, what they agreed to. You have to like endure some stuff. You'd have to wait to find work sometimes. So it's like the whole process around it was like, live rent free, make money quick, cool, but like you had to suffer for it.
Wait. Is this the
Yeah.
woof type stuff that was going on, or is going on still, or am I confusing it? Like where
This
people can go.
So trimigration is, back in the day before marijuana was legal in America, the black market industry was super, super pumping. So if for trimming, for cutting an ounce of, a pound rather of it, you'd get $200, $300. And good trimmers could do 2 or 3 or 4 in a day. So it's, you can make a lot of money doing it. And yeah, it was a thing before weed was made legal. And of course, I think it's better that weed is legal for the most part, and that people have to do something more creative to get by, because a lot of Burning Man people and travelers from all around the world would be trimmigrants. There was a lot of people back in those days who would come to California in the fall and travel the rest of their year with that money. And it's not unheard of. And honestly, people could still do things like that with seasonal labor. So, but anyway, in my own journey, that was just the first couple years. And then I was so fed up with it that I wanted to, just bring my stuff online. I was leading cacao ceremonies, really into it as well. So setting up cacao ceremonies in the places I was going would sustain me to an extent. And as I got better at that, I found that it would be a way to sustain myself partially, but honestly, like I would often stay with family and friends, and if it wasn't for that canceling out costs like rent, like being able to sustain myself on healing in those years would have been for sure difficult. But then, COVID era changed everything, and it was progressively really getting way better every year. I was like finding ways. I even led a retreat, but it was still, it
Wait,
felt like a hustle.
something
And
I
then
really want to get into about this is how did you deal with the fear that you were going to run out of money? I exploded with this question right now because I've been dying
I
to
don't,
ask. Like, the reason I haven't done, I've wanted to do this. I've wanted to just jump on a plane with the last of my money, throw it out for the plane ticket, and I'm off. And it's praying time. Um, but
what
what has stopped me is a tremendous fear. So how do you deal with that fear of being constantly just above zero on the bank account?
I was just like, okay, what else do I do? I'm gonna starve. So I had to like beg basically, and that robbed me of my pride. Like at one point, I was literally like in California, like waiting for to find a weed job. I was like, well, I guess the best thing to do is go on the streets like all the other people and ask for money. And I did better at it than they did. Like it wasn't that hard. I had already done jobs like asking people to give money to political organizations, so why couldn't I ask them to give me money? But no, that's the very beginning. Like that was super wild style hippie.
That
But
is
then
wild.
once I went when I went to India and all of my stuff was stolen on the first day, what am I going to do? I had to ask family to give a bit of money. And so when you're in India or any other place, like chump change in Europe or America is going to last you for days. So when I ran out of money, it's like, okay, I can swallow my pride and my family or someone can give me $100. And in that time, I can usually figure out what the fuck I'm doing.
That's actually a great point. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
you can live like a king. You can live like a king for a week in Southeast Asia on $100.
Yeah.
But I still do want to commend you just on taking the step and jumping out of the plane without a parachute because, like,
Yeah, it's wild.
as Tim is saying, is it's what's stopping a lot of people is fear, and
Exactly.
maybe it's healthy to think twice about stuff also, but it's not
I
everybody has the
really I
courage
want
to
to
go and do
add
this.
that I am not the least courageous when it comes to journeying both like in the world and in the inner realms. But yeah, that's like next level, man.
Yeah, it was a little crazy, but I mean, I didn't really, I think I was just so fed up at the time that I was going to leave, that I wanted to leave, that I didn't really see another choice. But then, the trip that I took to India, where I made a similar decision with a partner at the time, was like also a wake up call to me. I was like, okay, like you can put yourself in risky waters and get out, but do you want to? Is it comfortable? Does it help you?
Yeah.
And there was a lot that I learned that was important for me, and like I don't regret it at all, but like there was this kind of like never again moment that was like I need yes, go for it, but like make sure that you're comfortable because it's not worth the it's not worth the burden. Like it really weighed on my nervous system to be in high intensity and poor at the same time.
Right. It's I think it's maybe important to not over romanticize because for certain people they may not be equipped to actually
Yeah,
come out healthy on the other side, but for some people it may be exactly what they need. So like
yeah.
don't be listening to anything on this podcast and just giving all your
But it's
stuff
so
away and jumping on
funny,
an
man.
airplane.
You go through you go through some tough shit sometimes in life, and then afterwards it just becomes the funniest story. It's
It's
Yeah,
just
it's true.
it's just the
Yeah.
best. You're the life of the party because you had that experience, and I kind of love that.
I've got a couple.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Uh Yeah, it's very interesting, man. It's a pleasure to get to hear some of that because it is what a lot of us want to do, but not many of us take the step. And
totally.
it's not all sunshine and butterflies, as you're saying. It's very difficult at times, and you have to find out a way to make it work and
Yeah,
to not starve.
yeah. I was curious because I've been there. At the beginning of this year, I was very, very near the zero mark on my bank account. Just like I had to get a survival job. Just worked as a delivery guy for drinks, like a service that drives out drinks to people, and I did a few shifts over there. And just the nervous system calm that came over me from having just a little bit of steady income was immense, and it turned things around for me immediately. Like I had a business coach even at the time. My business was failing, and I wasn't making any money that way. So I had to get a job. And my business coach was like, "You need to get a job. Like that's the next logical step for you because you need your nervous system to calm the fuck down so that you can focus on what you got to be doing right now, and come into gratitude for the present moment. And that was a huge learning for me for through that experience as well. Being in the delivery job, something that I don't want to be doing necessarily. I don't feel like doing it, but it's like I got to do it because I need the money. And I'm an Enneagram 4, so I enjoy feeling like I am contributing something in a job that's almost tailor-made, especially for me. I need to be a special little snowflake. I feel like I'm doing a job that nobody else could be doing as well as I'm doing it. Um, because I am specialized in the authority on this thing, and that's not it. Like driving a car, delivering drinks, that ain't it. And so I'm doing this job and just accepting in the moment, practicing acceptance. And I used it as an opportunity very actively as a spiritual practice, actually, as I was working the shifts on that job to accept that that was the current experience, and whatever the current experience is, you can enjoy it.
You're
It is a
raising a
fact.
very, very good point about this, and it's like you see in some spiritual traditions, even like people will deliberately inflict physical pain to themselves, or like in some Indian traditions, they'll go and I think sit near corpses or watch like deliberately exposing yourself to really difficult situations to see if you can just simply sit with it and be with it. So I think any experience can be an opportunity to just learn to be
I
with that.
mean, I agree with that to some extent, but I think a lot of those paths are not helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly. I'm just using it as an example that this is out there and some
Yeah,
people have taken
you
this
can
path.
certainly take it too far. Is that what you were gonna say? Like you can.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, like I'm holding my arm up forever to be enlightened, but your body is like mutated in pain. Like, what good does that serve? Like, all you're essentially doing is proving that you have a crazy level of determination, so much so that you'll hurt yourself to be holy. That's all I see in that. Because I mean, having been to India and seen a lot of like, you feel the energy of people and you see them doing these extreme things, but you don't feel the supposed divine bliss that's beneath it. And then you meet the teachers that are just sitting in their meditation and they're very humble. They don't go to these extremes. It's such a contrast. But then I think also there's this like modern, like Western New Age kind of tendency to do the same thing where people get really like attached to concepts like shadow work, like emotional release work, like a lot of, I think these as concepts are important, but it's like they're like, they're nuances, they're not the modality itself. So it's like when people are doing this like grief ritual or yelling ritual or even something like beating the pillow up to an extent. Like I need to like get this out of me. I need to purify myself. I need to see my most extreme side. Um, my experience with a lot of this work is that it just imprints you with more of the shit that you don't want. It's
Right.
like your brain, show me more of this. Like when we're on the phone and we watch the video for too long, we see that video again and again. Your brain is an algorithmic whatever as well. So if you like do this like cathartic crying and screaming shit too often, you're just going to keep going back there. Your algorithm of your body is going to keep sending you back there. So
Right.
stop it. That's what my
If you
point.
get too attached to screaming and crying, your body is gonna, keep
Well,
giving
I
you stuff to create like
really marketed by a lot of the new age things that it's like come to our workshop and you're going to heal through pain by
right.
we're our emotions out, we're exposing our shadows, but it's done in a very like self-destructive way. There's even these subtle tendencies to shame rather than humility, that it's like you're softening your ego through seeing your darkness rather than stepping into the light. And this is some of the most like twisted and weird stuff that I've experienced on my path. And I say this because I believed it at a point, but I was just like looping. Like I was just looping, trying to get something out when I really just needed to get in the flow.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's a very important nuance to touch on here. Like I'm sick, so like I keep forgetting my train of thought, but bear with me here. So I think the nuance is that it's very
Don't
important
try it,
to
Hewkii. We all know you're tripping.
every time. I think it's like obviously pain is inevitable in life, and it's tremendously helpful to learn how to sit with it and to relate to it in a healthy way. But I think like when it turns into kind of this fetishization of the pain, when you're just inflicting it on yourself, like I think that's when it becomes destructive. And I think something that, like we spoke of before, like a seemingly helpful concept can easily get corrupted, and people can't always spot the difference.
Totally.
Yeah. And you get to take yourself off the cross was one of my favorite learnings from this uh recent experience I had, like of the having to set
Mhm.
boundaries and assert them very strongly that I was talking about before. It's like it brought up a lot of anger, and I felt like I needed to release that anger or unleash that anger on the opposite party, which is not what needs to happen, as far as I'm aware. And actually, if you detach yourself from the situation, you can see, if you manage to look at it from the outside, gain a little bit of perspective, you can see that that anger destroys yourself just as much as it destroys anybody you unleash it at, if they allow it to, if they
Uh,
accept that anger. So, a very powerful phrase. My one of my best friends, Ian, whom I met in Guatemala in San Marcos, actually, a Canadian brother. I was talking to him on the phone just for some advice as I was going through this. And one of the most useful, psychologically useful things he said to me was, "Dude, you get to take yourself off the cross. You don't have to stay angry. You can set the boundary, and then you can chill. There's no need to torture yourself over it." And that totally
I mean,
just
it's
dropped my
certainly
anger
in
instantly.
certain situations, but then again, there are also certain situations where you're just like in my case, I have chronic pain, and it's like I'm just on this cross for the moment, and I just got to work with it. There are certainly moments where you can't really take yourself off the cross, but you can at least change the way you relate to the cross, and in a certain sense, that is taking yourself off the cross, I guess.
That's true. That's true. I mean, yeah. Sorry,
I mean,
Dante.
that's certain, but I mean, the metaphor of the cross is also like you put yourself on your own cross. You martyr yourself. You die for your own cause. And there's no need to do that. Like, we don't need to be self-destructive and moving towards a goal. But yeah, I mean, life is still always going to involve its suffering. Like, we're always going to have pain that we have to deal with.
Mhm.
Right. 100%, 100%. Um, I'm gonna jump to the bathroom and we'll
I think,
check where are we on time? How are
yeah,
we feeling?
we've gone for about 80 minutes now, Hewkii. I think it would be about
Um,
time to end the episode. I mean, unless Dante, how are you feeling? What do you say?
I'm good to flow longer if you want. Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
down to go a little longer. There are some things I would like to chat a little more about.
Okay, sure. Then
But
I'll stop the recording and I'll see you back here very shortly.
I actually wanted to touch on some topics that may be slightly on the controversial side. And, you
Um,
can always let us know if there's something you don't want to talk about. But I've felt called to dive a little into this. So I think we should just shoot for it. Um, so
What the hell's coming right
yeah,
now?
I don't think it's that bad, but not everybody's comfortable talking about some of these topics. But I was following you, Dante, around the last presidential election in the US, and what I admired about you was like you didn't seem to fall into a lot of traps that other spiritual people were falling into. And I was just so perplexed seeing a lot of hippie people certainly becoming Trump supporters and adopting, at the very least, fascist adjacent politics. And like this just set me off so much. I didn't really know what to make of this. So I guess I'm just curious, like, what do you think is going on there? Because this guy and his movement just seems to represent everything that's opposite of what traditionally hippie people, you know, values of love and compassion, stuff like this.
I think it's the perfect storm, and basically, and the ingredients in the perfect storm are, first of all, Trump and Russia are whoever is backing Trump is smart. So the Q propaganda was well done. And it really used new age language that made it feel as if it was any other new age or channeling video. And then it, gave this evidence to show that Donald Trump was like a secret hero. And it was like the ends justifies any means kind of a story, that Trump is here to break the force of the cabal and the Illuminati. And because he's such a rebellious rule breaker, he'll do anything it takes to break them down. And that's why he's sometimes very rude and arrogant and all of this. And so that actually resonated with a lot of people, especially as people were just disappointed with the lack of intelligence and coherence of Biden.
Yeah.
And the other ingredient in the perfect storm was COVID itself, because a lot of the more, the alternative spiritual communities are obviously not wanting to go along with these control mechanisms and the vaccine and this and that or the other thing. And so you have this blue party that is super duper identified with the vaccine and with a lot of that, etc. And then you have this propaganda at the same time. And so it leads people to just easily jump on that bandwagon. So that's kind of what I've made of it. And honestly, those, in my reality at least, those people who got a bit swayed towards the Q and all of that have been a little bit more quiet recently.
Yes, it's so funny. Like everybody was so like, evangelizing, like, then they
Yeah,
just disappeared into a bush. Like, where are you guys? Like, can you show us like just 1% of the energy you had when you were promoting this? Like, right?
exactly. It's very bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, it's refreshing and reassuring to hear a like mind on this, because I think a lot of us felt very confused by what was happening around this time, and because
Yeah.
just every cell in my being just does not want to go along with the whole Trumpism movement and the larger kind of neo-fascist ideology that's become so prevalent now. And it's like it breaks my heart to see now just the rising levels of bigotry against gay people. It's become like so much more normalized, all of this stuff. It's so much more prevalent. And you know, some people say it's better that things come to the surface, but I don't know. I think some of those views, like neo-Nazi ideology, I think they should just be in the fringe. I don't want to like welcome that into the mainstream. And I think this is a big mistake that a lot of podcasters make, is they adopt this kind of mindset of like, oh, we just want to speak to everybody. But then you have situations like Joe Rogan speaking to Donald Trump, and he's just not equipped to push back on him. And he's not a journalist, and then he leaves this out there for people to just look at. Oh, like, oh, this is a cool guy. I'm just gonna vote for him. He, you know, seems like he's cool or whatever. So it's this too loosey goosey attitude that people have around some of this stuff.
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean, there's a thing that people bring up that's called like the paradox of tolerance, is
Yes,
that if
exactly that.
we are tolerant towards intolerance, we actually create a society that's less tolerant.
Yeah.
And I think that to an extent that's true. Like, I don't think, we should punish people for what they say, but I think we can remove their platform and remove certain levels of speech if it really is harmful to someone from, public sight.
Right.
And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Uh, but I also
Totally with
think
you there.
there's equally important paradox of compassion, that if we want the people who are most toxic to become compassionate, we have to be compassionate towards them as well. And so this is why, like, I think politics is just very gross at this time, because a lot of the people who are standing for something truly ethical become people who get aggressive in their defense of their beliefs, and just are very like gross, icky thing sometimes. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you there too. And it's neither side is ever 100% pure, but I think there's still important nuances to detect. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
right there with you.
I've been yeah, I was raised by the left or parents on the left, and I've kind of come to see some of its shortcomings since then, honestly. And I think it's interesting that we're bringing up the overlap between spiritual circles and right-wing circles because there are a couple.
It's become so
It's
much more
very,
prevalent after COVID. It just skyrocketed.
especially the anti-vaccine thing. Like that's totally a spiritual thing, and it's totally a right-wing thing as well.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, which is wild to me that anybody today is objecting to vaccines. What's your stance on that, actually, Dante? How do you feel?
I mean, the vaccines that I've already had in my body, I think are probably fine because nothing's happened to me. Um, but I I would think that of course some people are going to have reactions to them. And I think that they were necessary. Like what we learned from history is that they helped reduce the spread of very common diseases. But that said,
I mean, they saved literally millions of lives. That's a huge understatement.
okay, understatement, sure. But I think that the COVID vaccine itself it was very rushed, and the silencing of any objections around it was very sketchy to me, and I definitely chose not to get it. And the fact that I've seen a lot of people who have gotten it and then still get things like long COVID, I have no regret about that choice. And I really just, I believe that health is in your physique, your gut, and your lifestyle, period. So I learned that from a young age. I've always exercised and taken care of my body since the age of like 20. And so I rebound from the illnesses that I get quickly, and I'm grateful for that. And I think it's very icky to, suggest to anyone that you should do the same thing that I feel like I need to do to protect my body. Vaccines are supposed to make you immunized to them.
Yeah, totally. Like I receive all those arguments against the COVID vaccine because it did feel rushed and there was a lot of mixed opinions flying around on the internet as well. It was hard to know who to listen to exactly and what was right, and there was a lot of fear going around. And like I get that, and I was feeling the same thing at the time, and I didn't want to get vaccinated against COVID personally either, honestly, because I was like, this is not I'm gonna be fine if I get this. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like um, but like historically, I mean, vaccines that have been well researched and have actually stopped and just killed off plagues that would have otherwise literally killed humans by the millions. And children, like very young children as well, like millions of infants would be dead if not for vaccines. And like being generally against vaccines, like the standard ones that kids are supposed to get at a certain age, that gets me real good. That really bothers me because there is not a shred of evidence in in any but one direction that it works. Like
If most people are still getting the vaccines, it would hold that most people are still immunized. So.
yes, but it would risk like if not everybody is immunized, there is still potential for an outbreak.
Yeah, apparently there has been some reemergence of certain diseases that were presumed to be almost gone because of some, lifting of vaccines. But generally, like it's the first time that the topic of vaccines has come up on the podcast. But it's interesting because
Yeah,
there
got
was
really emotional about this.
no, it's good though, but it's just brought back a memory of Bill Burr on Joe Rogan this podcast, and Joe Rogan wants to go into vaccines, and then Bill Burr's like, "Let's not do this. Let's not pretend that we're immunologists." You know?
Yeah,
Look
yeah.
at you, look at you over there smoking a cigar in front of the American flag is what he says next. It's hilarious.
But I think it's a valid point, is like, because we have this mass democratization of information, which is a good thing because it's not just in the hands of a few people delivering information, but then you also get a lot of people speaking about a lot of things that they may not be experts on. So you get a lot of misinformation and bad information flowing, and people have no idea what to think about things anymore, what's up or what's down. So I've wanted to do my best to keep that commitment to myself, not to go too far. Me personally, you guys can do whatever you want, but like, I don't personally want to express myself too much about vaccines because I just don't know jack about vaccines, and I think that's an honest place to be. You know?
I try to just like change the subject and disappear almost. I'm like, what's like big matter?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's still like it's a very integral part of what I was talking about, this kind of new right-wing politics overlap with the hippie community, and like why it was leaving me so perplexed for a while.
Yeah, a little disturbing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Okay, but I'm happy to leave that topic, to the side for now. But I did feel called to
I mean,
touch
I
upon
feel
it.
like the hippie community has like taken a lot of distance from facts in the search of truth. Um, I don't know. Like I could see last year like there's some people that I hadn't seen in a while, and then I meet them again. I'm like, wow, like I've never seen anyone so lost. And the people that end up so lost are the same people that go down the thread of like trad wives, and they go down the thread of like I'm creating my own reality, and they go down the thread of etc. And it's just like, okay, like I see how you ended up there
Like
because
all
you
these different modes of spiritual
my
bypassing.
yeah, you've gotten into this very myopic way of thinking, and it makes sense that this is the natural result of that. Lost in
Right,
your friends. Fine
right.
if it's for you, not my path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no.
Aho, aho. Yeah, leaving facts for the truth, which seems like a contradictory statement, because facts are supposed to be, I guess, a representation of the truth, but albeit, facts can only be relative, I guess, in their nature. Like, at least
Facts
scientific facts.
facts are the undeniable part, but the truth is like if I create my own reality, true is whatever I want to be true. And people get empowered with that idea because there is an aspect of truth in that, but then it's like it's only true because it's true within your own nervous system. Just because it's your truth doesn't mean it's the best truth.
Wow.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
wanted to bring in this distinction of like relative truth and absolute truth. And I guess absolute truth is just that which would be true under all circumstances, such as you're bringing in your kind of um, following your highest bliss without attachment to the outcome, stuff like this. That's seems to be just always true across the board. And like I was speaking about, being is itself is always present.
Or
Uh,
gravity.
yeah, I mean, gravity, even still, that's still in the domain of relativity. Because in certain situations where you don't have this particular universe, you may not have gravity. So
Mm.
it's an important distinction for people to look into. So I would just invite people to just research a little bit on the distinction of relative and absolute truth, because it's a very deep topic and most people don't know how to parse them.
I'll see if ChatGPT knows. Let's
Yeah.
let's check.
Is Leo Gura has a really good video, and I think it's just called Relative versus Absolute Truth and What is Truth. Yes.
Yeah. Is
I'm just his
it
spokesperson.
5 hours long? Is
It's
it?
all 5 hours long, so you just gotta strap in. You're not gonna understand this topic in 10
Oh
minutes.
boy,
Sorry.
I can't. The day I sit down and watch one of his videos just from beginning to end will be a cold day in hell. Let me tell you.
I just listen to him when I'm moving. When I'm moving around. It's
Nah, it might still happen. I didn't mean to go that harsh.
yeah.
It's interesting stuff.
But I'm
This
curious.
is really long. I can't.
Yeah, but I think it's he also has a video called "Why Everything Can't be explained simply or quickly. Going into the topic of like, there's a reason why when you have these really deep spiritual topics that there's no way you're going to cover it in a 5-minute video. You have to really dive into it and explore it from all different
What you're saying is somebody made a really long video to explain why they always have to make their videos really long.
Yes. Exactly. But I'm curious, Dante, like, what's your perspective on this distinction of relative versus absolute truth? Is that something you've thought about, or like, does that have any significance to you?
The absolute or objective truth is true from every single perspective.
Yeah.
From vantage point that you could see it. It's undeniable.
Yeah.
Subjective,
Exactly.
like what's true for you are in a certain condition.
Right. Yeah. It's a which brings me actually like into have you ever studied postmodernism? Are you familiar with that school of thought?
Yeah, loosely. I mean, it's been a while since I went directly textbook postmodernism. But
Did you do we mean postmodernism just in the loose sense of everything is relative, or something
Yeah, I mean
deeper?
it basically kind of boils down to that, but it's like it gets demonized a lot, specifically by certain groups of people that are really attached to things just being a certain way. But postmodernism, it's I've been taking like a multi-hour dive into really studying what it is, and I've still not fully understood it, but it's at the very least a very interesting
You are
kind
such a
of
Gandalf, man. I can always
well,
picture you with a
so
lit like fireplace and a pipe. Sorry.
are y'all familiar with Robert Anton Wilson
oh wait,
No.
is that the guy? Did he maybe I'm
from
confusing him with Conversations with God? Is that him?
No, that's Neil Donald Walsh.
Oh, okay.
So Robert Anton Wilson, he goes deeper into Timothy Leary's model, and Timothy Leary was very maligned by the press, in the 60s and 70s for his association with the LSD movement and what he was teaching based on his psychedelic experiences and his
He
work
was
with,
put to prison.
yeah, and he created this 8 circuit model of consciousness that maps all of the different types of uh, oh God, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's even a little bit more advanced than my normal language, but I'll work it through. It's like the different aspects and levels of the nervous system, right? Like you have the survival circuit. It's like the brain stem, like your survival mechanism. You have another circuit that's about your relationships. It's kind of where you're scanning people, like who's the alpha, who's the beta. It's all about this competitive and social dynamic. Then there's the linguistic model of your circuitry, where you see things through your language and through words. There's a more relational and like heart-centered level where you're guided through these love and energy. And then there's these more like neurosomatic and higher circuits of your brain that are only really accessed through things like yoga, meditation, psychedelics, and other flow, peak states of consciousness. And so this model is like inherent in both Leary's work and Robert Anton Wilson's work. But he goes really deep into these concepts that like you have a thinker and you have a prover. Whatever the thinker thinks, the prover proves. So anytime you focus on a specific thought, there's an automatic part of you that's going to try to validate that thought and will find all of the evidence.
Yeah.
And so just understanding that mechanism, you come to see that whatever you start to think will prove itself, and that you're kind of living in what he calls a reality tunnel, where everything that's already circulating through your mind is replicating itself and reproducing itself again and again.
You got a
And
kind of confirmation bias for your own thoughts.
And also this reality tunnel is connected to cultures that you're a part of, like your nation or like your specific sub-community, your political affiliation, your religious group. There's all of this language and these beliefs that are so common that you stop questioning and you just see everything through them. And what he really proposes is a model of consciousness, because the thinker thinks and the prover proves. Whatever whatever map you put to the territory of the human experience and the human psyche, if you look at it closely enough, you're going to be like, whoa, that's me. It's like we've all done those personality tests, and there's tons of them now. It's like, oh my God, I'm such an INFJ. Oh my God, I'm such an Enneagram type 8. It's like the mind is whatever. If you start to think it and you stop your disbelief long enough, you're going to be like, wow, that is me, and that's how it works. So we need to get out of thinking in terms of like reality can be defined in this way. The map is the territory. Because I know this, I am safe. And instead just recognize like how all of the stories and the projections and the experiences of the mind work. It's all due to our own belief. It's all just reality. We don't know reality. We only know reality within the confines of our own nervous system. And so if we get to know our own nervous system and start to take control over it creatively, then we have a broader spectrum of what reality could be. But again, all we know is what reality could be because we don't know anything other than our own experience. And that's the kind of stuff that Robert Anton Wilson really goes deep into in Prometheus Rising. And it's like I think, a really groundbreaking work that takes some of this postmodern stuff and then connects it to the, historical models of psychology and philosophy and brings them all together, and also then incorporates this sort of more maligned and taboo thing of psychedelics and show how they map to it as well, to bridge both the ancient and modern philosophies in a really incredible way. And so I would say that, yeah, like it is a little postmodern, but my view of things in general is like reality is what you make it. Whatever philosophy you attach to is going to become something proven to you to work. But what matters is also, does it make you happy? I mean, you can look deeply enough at Nietzsche's philosophy and say, that's probably true on some level because the mind likes to think that things are true. And that reality, that Nietzsche's philosophies are completely real, but you might just end up going insane like he did. So truth isn't just what's real, it's also what makes you feel coherent and aligned.
Yeah, oh, it's so the nail on the head for me. It's like
You did give me goosebumps at one point there when you were explaining his mod. I wrote his name down, Robert Anton Wilson. I'm definitely going to look into it.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of the work Ken Wilber has done. It sounds very kind of parallel. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah, I like Ken Wilber too. I haven't touched him for like over a decade, I would say. I like Wilson more, I think, just because it's a little bit more punchy and it asks you questions that help you understand it more than it's like this academic kind of text.
Yeah, right. Yeah, when it's too conceptual, it's usually not so accessible for every day.
The map is not the territory.
Yeah.
Or is it?
Like I just said, yeah. Oh man, you said the word postmodern there at one point at the end of that speech, and I was like, oh yeah, we got here from postmodernism.
Yeah, it's but I like what you said about, it kind of becomes real for you once you buy whatever philosophy it is, and one big part of Ken Wilber's work is this idea of being an integral person, and that essentially means developing the capacity to take on multiple perspectives and being able to see reality not just from your own limited perspective, but trying out different philosophies, seeing, okay, this is one way to look at things, and then trying out another philosophy and seeing how self-coherent.
And not necessarily just trying anything, but trying the thing that resonates the most each time, I would say, is the fastest path. And the way I've always framed it actually is what scares me the most is what I need to be trying out next. So I thought it was interesting that you say, what
5 grams of mushrooms for you then.
Yes, yeah, that definitely scares the shit out of me right now. No doubt. I had a very, 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 very bad experience on psychedelics. About 5 years ago. I was like the worst. You relate to Dante?
Yeah, the two things. So I like almost already lost one of them, but I would say that mushrooms are like the worst psychedelic for me, and I'll get back to why. But the other thing I wanted to say is that yes, like obviously you need to gravitate towards the philosophies that resonate most with you to live through. But one thing I also like about Robert Anton Wilson is that in his books he asks you to imagine life through the philosophies of people who diametrically oppose you, and even the most like far out, we don't want to go there things, just to help you understand how the prover proves, right? If you
Exactly.
take a moment to imagine that you are a fascist, how would a fascist view the world? And you don't do this to become a fascist, you do this to understand the fascist, to have compassion into seeing why they act the way they do, and how you can actually like relate and create a space.
Yeah.
But back to the mushroom thing is like, yeah, I don't even know why mushrooms are the most difficult psychedelic. But for me, I think it's like they have the heaviest emotional body load. And maybe ayahuasca has a more like, well, things are moving body load, like you get sick. But I think somehow maybe that sickness actually like distracts me from some of the more emotional parts of it. And once I get through that, I'm good. But mushrooms can leave me feeling very like shattered. And yeah, I don't know why.
Yeah, I've definitely had that experience on mushrooms. That wasn't the worst experience I've had. That was on a drug called LSA, which occurs in beans. You know that one?
Maybe red rose seeds.
Yes,
Yeah.
those.
Yeah,
I
that's I've done that sometimes and it's been good sometimes and very, very nauseating and horrible others.
Yeah, I had the nauseating, horrible variety, and I was just in the fetus position, praying for about 10 hours, feeling like I was going to throw up. And this is
I'm
like might be too
yeah.
much information to share on the podcast, but at one point of
No,
this
go for it.
trip, like this is how much pain I was in mentally and physically. Like I remember walking into the bathroom a couple hours into this 10-hour like easily worst 10 hours of my life. By the way, no real competition. Those were the worst 10 hours of my life. And I remember walking into the bathroom at one point, getting out of the fetus position. I was just lying in there in the darkness, just after a whole battle of feeling like there were demons on the other side, or the other end of a rope, and I was tugging at my end of the rope, and the rope was my sanity, and we were competing for my sanity, and it was being pulled away from me by these nameless, faceless demons, And at the same time, the rope was my sanity. So we were tearing my sanity apart, but I couldn't stop pulling, man, because they were going to take it away from me. And I was picturing the moment I'd come home to my parents and be like, I may look like your son, but he's dead. Like he's gone. He's not. I wasn't afraid that I was going to physically die, but I was sure that egotistically I was going to die. My psyche was no longer going to exist, and I was going to be a vegetable for the rest of my life. Like I was convinced of that for 10 hours, and that was really the hell of it. Being convinced of that for 10 hours straight, and at the same time being physically sick. And anyway, that's not the part I was going to get to, because the part I was going to get to is I was in that space, and I I got up out of the bed, out of the fetus position, out of the I can't the constant pain, and I walked into the bathroom, turned on the light, and after a funny interval of looking at myself in the mirror, which you always obligatorily have to do on every psychedelic trip, whenever you see a mirror, it's like, whoa, it's a
At your
mirror.
own risk.
Oh my God. I went over to the toilet bowl and I thought I was going to puke. I was like, I'm just going to get this out of me. Like, I feel super sick. But the thing with me is I have a very difficult time throwing up. I have a very strong resistance to it. I just think it's gross. I don't like doing it. So I was over the toilet bowl and I was literally taking two fingers like this, like a pointed gun, down my throat, trying to choke so that I would initiate the throw up response. And it didn't come, and it didn't come, and it didn't come. But eventually I was like, this is kind of nice. Like in comparison with the physical mental pain I'm in right now, this is a good distraction. So I just kept going like that like it's a pretty dark place to be in. Um, I was torturing myself because it was a pleasant distraction from the other pain that was happening. It was literally, it's just such an absolute low point. So that's why I'm still like, even after having some psychedelic experience in the years after that, that was about 5 years ago now. I'm still scared to death every time I go in. I'll never do
Set,
LSA again.
set, and setting.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I messed that up. And that was my bad.
The dosage can also be very crucial. But
Yeah.
I don't want to take LSA again if it makes you feel any better.
Okay.
I've never taken it, and now I'm never going to.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. But yeah, totally, man.
I
That's a
knew it.
disclaimer that always needs to follow those kinds of stories. I just messed up the set and the setting, and it all went to hell. And I had nobody to save me. There was no trip sitter. There was nobody who had
Ugh.
experience with these drugs, and I wasn't communicating in my first language. I was in a place I'd never been before. Like it was, yeah. I'll never make that mistake again. That's for sure.
It's very interesting. Your it's because what's happening in these kind of ego shattering states it turns very symbolic, and all this, the demons tugging at the rope and your sanity and all this. It's just it's there's something very poetic about it, um and it brought up this memory of, I remember Leo Kura talking about, his process with sanity, and he said, the ultimate conclusion of non-duality is that there's ultimately no distinction. Like when you go that far, the distinction between sanity and insanity also collapses. Um, so I think that is actually maybe a fear that could be explored. I certainly explored it at some parts. I went insane a few times and I had a lot of fun with it, but I maybe did a lot of crazy shit too in those states. But I can speak for myself. Insanity for me has been extremely liberating, and it can actually like connect in certain ways to like almost like, not to toot my own horn, but you can feel like you're becoming genius almost when you turn insane a bit.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So
I
I don't
wasn't
know.
Huh?
wasn't a fan of Insanity.
Mm.
No, it can definitely be very unpleasant also. But yeah, I'm not recommending people go, explore
Yeah.
dissolving the boundary between sanity and insanity. But for some people, it is a process they have to somehow go through, or to understand what sanity is, even.
Yeah.
It's like there's also that Kundalini syndrome, that kind of pushing the envelope, whether it's with psychedelics or whether it's just with very extensive meditation or yoga practices, where you've really kind of expanded your nervous system's capacity to perceive and move energy through it. And then all of a sudden, the gates of your subconscious flood open. And the truth is like everyone's kind of crazy. I mean, we've all really suppressed emotions and what some call parts or ego states. It's like they're buried in there. And when we're heading in the direction of the light, they come out. And so the actual healing journey is, it has to involve holding space for a degree of insanity. It's just making sure that like we kind of like open the door slowly enough so not all of that stuff comes out at once, and just, only enough that we can process at one
Yeah.
moment.
We've probably both had the experience of all of it coming out at once, and, whatever that may
Really not.
entail.
Yeah. Not helpful is what I'm gathering.
Yeah, it wasn't for me, but I can say I had a lot of fun with it. But in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't the most helpful way to do it.
I mean, I would say that for years I would like go to the edge in safe settings where all of this stuff would come up, and to have a cry and release and ceremony and like really feel crazy for a moment and then come back was a normal thing. But it was when I got like really cocky, when I'd been doing this for so long, and then I was like, okay, I'm not really in a good setting, but and I know that, but I'm going to go just as far as if I was in an ayahuasca ceremony with the elders. And for me, that was when I was like, oh, okay, you can't do that.
It's
Got it.
so, but it's exactly the same for me. It,
That's
it got to
fine.
me
Yeah.
listening to death metal on bikes, just, going for it. But yeah, certainly some fun. But
Tripping balls riding a bike, man. I can't even.
oh my
I mean,
God,
I,
that was
it's so good, man.
that's the number one trip. I think everyone should try it once, right?
all
Albert
right.
Hall
Yeah.
riding his bike.
I fucking love that personally. Like it's for me, it's beautiful. It's like you're fucking flying, man, just
Yeah.
Everybody,
floating away.
stay safe out there, guys.
Yeah. Do not do any of this shit at home. Like we're not your advisors over here. We're just some crazy old hippies.
You speak for yourself, man. Jeez.
And then he goes and drops acid to death metal on the bike. If
Yeah,
you do that, if any of your listeners do that, hit me up and tell me how it went. I want to
yeah.
hear about it.
He's, just survived to hit Hewkii up.
Yeah.
But yeah, surprisingly, you actually can. You have pretty good motor skills even while you are tripping. It is
And once you step on the bike, it kind of they kick into gear somehow.
yeah,
It's hard
Yeah.
to explain.
interesting. All right. Well, I hope my parents aren't listening, but I might try this. Yeah.
Hey parents, you can blame it on me.
They're always like, if you do some crazy shit, just don't tell us about it.
Right.
We don't need to know.
That's all right. They can blame me. I'll be like Timothy Leary, he just owned that label in the 60s. I'm just the corrupter of the youth, you know? Fuck it, I'll be the corrupter of
Yeah.
Tim over here.
Become death, corrupter of youth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wild.
Yes.
Yeah. I enjoy where we took this. This was fun.
Yeah,
It
this was really fun. Does this feel like a natural conclusion to the conversation for now? Does it, or are
kind
there
of does
any
for me.
are
Like,
there any caveats still unexplored?
I don't know. Yeah.
Nah,
The
nah.
people.
I'd say we all got smiles on our faces. We just got a good laugh in. Let's call it a day over here and save the rest for later. Be very
Yeah.
happy to have
yeah,
you on
sounds good.
again,
Maybe just
Dante.
one thing to finish. Like, I think you should just, give people a sense of like where they can find your stuff and buy your books and tune into
Totally.
your channelings and all that stuff.
Oh,
And
totally. Yeah.
we'll add this stuff in the show notes as well, links and stuff for everything you say.
So the YouTube channel is Heartflow Transmissions, and that's the name of the website too. It was actually recently changed. Before it was just my name, but anyway, the idea is that it is that formula: act on your highest excitement to the best of your ability without insisting on an outcome. It's directing you to connect inwardly to find the source of wisdom and ride the wave of that current and interrupt whatever beliefs and emotions or craziness that interferes with your flow. That's the gist of what the transmissions really help people with. But of course, they can ask about their wildest fantasies and thoughts about the universe and see if they like the answer that comes through. I do regular streams where you can just join in Zoom and ask your questions or type them out. And usually the typed out questions also get asked. And my website has the information on my books, but I actually need to update the website and put the latest book up there because I've been very distracted. I'll do that soon, maybe give you the link for the books as well.
Yeah,
And just,
please.
yeah, a note for the future as well. So the books that you see there are channeled, like they've come through in these states, and it's not really connected with my personality as much as when I'm speaking, but I have written now a memoir that's pretty epic, and people have enjoyed it in the first go through, and I'm actually thinking of getting it, sending it to publishers. So it might be a ways out. Who really knows when it'll be out there? But I have a more memoir piece and also kind of like a direct teaching transmission that has come through as well. So I've just been on a creative role. I've been very like isolated, to be honest, in this cocoon, and it was really good to do this because I think I needed to just use my voice and flow for a moment and connection with others and not just be grilling it to get the stuff done. But I can't wait for it to be out there. There's already a lot out there, and you can stay tuned because there's much more that I want to share soon.
Awesome. So that brings us to the end. Just thanks a lot for coming. It's been a lot of fun. I love how we just went in all these different directions and, it's all
I
good fun.
I want to personally thank you, Dante. It's not often that I have an interaction where I genuinely feel the person I'm interacting with has equal or more emotional intelligence or more insights into emotions than I do. And I found myself kind of like playing catch up with you on some of the threads you went on there because the insights you were bringing were just so deep. So it was a very, very, very stimulating interaction for me, not one
Oh,
that I have very often. So thanks.
thank you so much for that feedback. I appreciate that. I'm glad to ride the journey with you. Yeah,
Yeah, let's do it again sometime.
sounds good.
Alrighty.
Peace, everyone. Catch you later.
Peace out.
Peace.
Well, just before you leave, everybody, just want to leave you with a song of mine called On Shedding Layers. This is a very meaningful one to me. It came through during a very meaningful psychedelic ceremony in Guatemala with my very good friends Ian, Gabriel, and Stefan Early. It was the three of us taking mushrooms and LSD together on our last day together on Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, where this poem came through. And won't go into the details of the story for time efficiency's sake today, but it is to be found elsewhere.
We went
And it's
into it on the first episode of our podcast.
Oh, right. Go back to that one then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great story, by the way. I would love to tell it right now. If I weren't tired after a long day recording this outro right now.
You can do it.
But it was it was a great time. Everybody go listen to episode 1 of the Hewkii Flammeus show to check out that story, how that song came about, where that poem came from. But all you really need to know to enjoy it is that it's some of the most profound spiritual truths I've ever been able to put into what do you call it? Like I suppose you could say that I've ever been able to put into poetry, like a kind of because you can describe complex truths in language that doesn't rhyme and doesn't need to fit a structure pretty easily if you're just allowed to write. But in a poem, it has to come through in a kind of concise way to make it land as the rhyme hits, and to kind of hit some beats like that. And I've never been able to quite make spiritual truths land of this depth land the way I've been able to do in this poem, I think.
I wanted to ask about this because it's what struck me when I was listening to the song again, was like how somehow in sync the music and the poetry is, even though the you're not like rapping the poetry, you're not like very rhythmic about it, but somehow it's like the music is complementing it very well. And did you like somehow design it that way, or did it just like magically line up?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Well, I started by just putting together a little chord progression for it, a very typical kind of jazz thing that I came up with to put in the background. And then I counted the lines of the poem, and I realized that it wasn't symmetrical. I think the last verse is a couple, 2 or 4 lines longer than the other verses. And so I had to make the chord progression for the last verse like longer, which I actually think fits the scheme of the song really well, and the story it's telling, that you get the same, you get the chord progression, and then you get the chord progression again with a different verse, and then you get it again, but it's different this time. And I really like that because I had to make it longer. Yeah.
Indeed. And you can listen to this song on the album As Sane as Possible. It's out on Bulb Mind Records on CD and vinyl. So go pick it up, boys and girls.
And girls. And anybody else who doesn't identify with one of those terms.
Indeed.
Let's get controversial here.
Yes.
Just kidding. We love you. Everybody who's listening. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the song, and looking forward to catching up next week.
Take care.
See you then. Is an apple tree still an apple tree in the height of picking season? Is a king still high-born when he's been tossed aside by treason? Well, I once met a man who'd shed every layer of skin, and to inspect truly and fully what lay within, he dug and invited each earthworm to walk through his door. He got to his center and found that there wasn't a core. so doing he let go of his humanity. And though others might see in him insanity, I know that his shedding ventures only left him so light that his soul in the end could not help but to take off in flight. Whether flight from a foe or the flight of the angels that soar depends on the eye of the one who's keeping the score. There to be found where the blue meets the green, and each one of us on the path that lies in between. We're told it's our purpose to heal every one of our scars, but can you handle the fear of truly knowing who you are? The layers of the onion you see do not fall away to reveal a prize to whomsoever set aside time to lay their eyes on the maddening pace of the signals that race through one's mind, and all of the infinite beauty that's hidden behind the curtains, the players, the games, the plot, and the plan. So I'll hold on to just enough secrets to still be a man.